Uncle Ernie. Welcome, Uncle Ernie. Look here, let me step from the mic. Hold on the little Uncle Ernie. The mic open, Uncle Ernie. That's why I can't come forward.
Oh,
Uncle Ernie.
yeah.
Oh, man, full of goose people. Look here. Uncle Ernie. Oh, no, I'm going to cry. Uncle, how you doing, Uncle Ernie?
Yeah?
How you doing?
Oh, holding on.
Oh. All right, have a seat right there. And we talk soon.
Okay.
Look who has come in the morning before the sun come up. Look who has come. Look who has come. I'm not hearing you because I'm not sitting down yet. Ernest Ranglin in the house with us, as I told you before. Ernest Ranglin, Dr. the Honorable Ernie Ranglin. A lot can be said about Ernie Ranglin, and we're going to hear all of that this morning. I invented the music, but not the word. And even reggae. I didn't invent that word either, but I invented the music from Ernie Ranglin himself. And he's right. The history of Jamaica's music cannot be written without Dr. the Honorable Ernie Ranglin. Here in Jamaica, it is something that our young people need to know. It is something that we all need to know and respect. But sometimes we also forget our history. Ernie Ranglin represents a foundation of rhythms of Jamaica's musical heritage. He has timeless relevance and enduring legacy. He's in the house this morning. Ernie Ranglin's music forms the soundtrack of our lives, and sometimes the soundtracks of our programs like mine. I'll be interviewing the highest in terms of the social status, or those who we look down upon, the invisible people, who, when they come into space, Ernie Ranglin becomes a soundtrack. And so today we're privileged and we're honored to be in the presence of the man. Some might even say the myth. The man, the music, the legend, the icon, a musical polymath. Out of Robbins Hall, Manchester, right here in Jamaica. Think about that. Ernest Ranglin, Daddy, Uncle Ernie, welcome once again. Thank you so much for coming in this morning. So we're going to get the microphone close to that. And move this from here for me, please. We're doing all kinds of things right now because I need to see Uncle Ernie. All right, and we're getting the microphone to him in a way so that... And we want to talk about Ernie in a way, then, because Ernie was born June 19, 1932. And if you check that, there's a need to check that. Because he's in the house, walked in, sprightly, looking like 65, and sitting in the studio. Welcome, Uncle Ernie.
Thank you very much. It's an honor to be here also.
It's an honor to have you in the studio. This is a great honor. This to me is like a reunion because I remember the early days of Irie FM, that you were one of the first musicians that I met and that I interviewed you on this program and every other program that I did. I found reasons to interview you. And so we'll be having many, many discussions over time. The last conversation we had on the phone lines, it was a few years ago. I called you to say, Uncle Ernie, we need to put on a guitar festival. And you said to me, yes, go ahead and see how we can pull this together. And we tried, but there was no sponsorship. And I'm still saying, in your name, we need to put on a guitar festival. But let us start at the beginning, because you started out very early as a musician, as a guitarist. Tell me about those early days and how you started. When you were about 15, I think, or even earlier than 15.
Well, really, I didn't go to any big university and so forth to do my music. I'm a self-taught person. I used to go to Badminton College, but I went there to do. I had the ambition of being a lawyer, so I went into the Cambridge area to study. But I'm always a lover of cricket, and in the evening times, I used to go to Badminton College, and
Yes.
The area, they didn't have any playground, so I generally have to go to other places and have a little enjoyment before I go home.
Yes.
But someone from my college always go and report on me, and because I can never remember to take off my epaulette off my shoulder, so they could have, there's a big recognition.
Yes.
And so when I go back to school the next day, 100 lines, and every time, and it developed to about a couple thousand lines.
You were punished.
So
Yes.
I think I couldn't really take it anymore,
Yes.
And there was one little thing about the Cambridge lessons. I didn't like to remember too much names, because and this person there and that,
Okay. Yes.
and
Names and dates.
yes, that was one part that
Yes.
I didn't like too much.
Yeah.
So that was one thing that helped me to just, when I was 14, I decided that this is it. I taught myself from a young fellow, about 4 years old up.
You taught yourself
Yes,
to play the guitar
yes.
from and you're playing from 4 years old.
Yes, because
Yes.
my uncles, they used to play the guitar also, but they didn't know much about it also. They just know a few little chords.
But you were growing up around the guitar.
Yes, and
Yes.
so I watched them when they practice, but they never allow me to touch the guitar. So whenever they gone to work, I would steal a little
You're
play.
strumming on the chords.
And then I run the strings all over, down, and take it out of tune again and put it down, so they would know that someone had
So you
was
could
troubling the instrument.
so you could also tune it.
Anyway, that's how I started, and
Yes.
all my life I've been teaching myself, and I don't mind it when I really come to the end of it, because it's good.
Yeah. At one point, you were also a little later, still no, probably a teenager. You were renting guitars. Were you
You were renting guitars.
Eh?
You had to rent a guitar.
Right? Because we
Oh yes.
yes.
I used to do that, and I didn't. When I started to play in a band now, that's when I decided I was still renting guitars.
Yes.
But eventually I managed to, I went to Haiti. It was the first band, Eric Dean's band. And I went to Haiti with that band. And when I came back, I could buy a guitar. So that's where I started on my own fully.
This is quite your start is quite an interesting story, because you also learned the notes. In other words, you could read the notes at some point, because you were taught. So talk to us about that, because you taught yourself to play the guitar, and then later on you were able to read the musical notes.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, yes, reading the music, that's another trick of it, you know. There was one violinist, I can't remember his name now.
Tommy Tomlins.
Tommy.
Yes.
Tommy Tomlins.
Yes.
Yes.
That's the man.
Yes.
Oh, you know a lot about it.
Listen.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, he was the first one who taught me to read.
Yeah.
You know, and from there, when I got the books now to start to real study the real thing now, I would take up saxophone books.
Wow.
All kind of books, you know, and because I needed to get the experience, and but he was a man who really helped me to.
Yes. And what's interesting about this is that it's the notes, because these are universal. So it's saxophone, it's violin, it's so on. It's not a guitarist. Yeah. Tommy, as you said, a violinist who first taught you, and then you studied on your own by buying the books and so on. So who were some of the people that influenced you musically? Who were some of the people you were listening to? Because now we're talking about the 40s.
Yeah. Oh, well, to begin with, I was in the Eric Dean's band. I started off in Valbenit band.
Yes, Valbenit.
And then I went to Colony Club. But the great influence that I got at Colony Club was that there were the artists that came there. They used to have one artist would come for a week, and they change artists, and there were people who did a lot of Broadway music and so forth, and Eric Dean's too. The music that he used to play for the band, it was really whatever those big bands,
the big band sound.
All of them.
Yes.
We would get their music sheets, and we played the same thing.
Yes.
So this was a great opportunity for me.
Yeah.
And these artists now that come from Broadway, with these, I get to learn all these Broadway tunes, and this was a great lesson for me. This was a good schooling.
Yes, the foundation. So it's interesting, because at this time we're not talking about a Jamaican sound or Jamaican music. We're talking about a more international sound, more American sound.
Yes.
So at that time, the Jamaican sound had not yet been developed.
Yeah.
Right. So we want to talk about that.
Yeah.
But you mentioned your own quintet. You were touring, you said, with Eric Dean's, but at some point you started in the mid-1958. You're playing on the North Coast in the hotels.
Yeah, you were playing on the North Coast in the hotel with your own band.
Oh, yes, yes.
Yes.
Well, like on the North Coast, I was with Baba Mota, who was a great Jamaican musician also. And he had a very good combo. And that gave me a lot of opportunities, because I came out of the big band. The big band have all these trumpets, saxophones, whatever it is. And now this is only piano, bass, guitar, and drums.
Yes.
And this was, where I could get a lot of exposure, because I have the opportunity to feature to myself a lot.
Yes.
And I think these are the things that help me to to really improve. And away from that too, I used to listen to a lot of great musicians from abroad, and these I try to figure what they are doing, and try to do my best to understand what it is. And these are the things that help me a lot.
Yes, because I know when I've had this discussion with you before, where you talk about some of those you listen to, like Doggett, I think, and Hawkins, Erskine Hawkins, and Benny Goodman.
Benny Goodman.
Yes.
Oh, Benny Goodman
and Hawkins.
Yeah.
Hawkins.
Coleman Hawkins.
Yes.
People like that.
Yes.
Oh yes. So all these people, because I try to get in touch, with all these great musicians. I never had the opportunity to play with them, but I listened to their records, or if I could find any music that they do, I try to, read it and understand what is happening. And this is how... because it's a fight I had to do, because it's just self-taught person. You have to go through a whole lot of...
I can just imagine, and I can just imagine the great love you had for the guitar. It was my father who played the guitar, who introduced me to you originally when we were children, because he used to be on the veranda just strumming out one beat, menge, 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 and that's all he used to play. But he talked a lot about you see, and this is so we knew about you long before we could even talk. So, tell me about your relationship with Les Paul.
Oh yes. At that time now, as I said, I was with Eric Deans.
Yes.
And we have been to Haiti a few times. And then after he came back, I was with Baba Moto for a while. And then Eric went to Nassau.
Yes.
And then I went with his band into Nassau. And this was where I had my first opportunity to be an arranger. So I arranged my little tune, and the band for the band, and this is where you get the real feeling and gusta, to do the thing, And I'm very glad that I went there, because I got a lot of exposure. And then Les Paul and Mary Ford came along during my stay there, and we met and had a very good, togetherness together, and eventually decided to come to Jamaica. So when I was at Glass Bucket in Halfway Tree, he came and looked for me. He spent a whole week.
Wow.
And it was very good, because there were certain things that he wanted to know, because he's a guitar player like myself.
Yes, this is a man whose name is on the guitar.
Yes. He's supposed to be the number one guitar player at that time, so and there are little points, and he had a little problem with his fingers, one of his. So he wanted to see if we could get through that. And we became very good friends from there, and he's one of my good old friends.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
What a rich story. What a beautiful, rich story. We're speaking with Dr. the Honorable Ernest Ernie Ranglin. I call him Uncle Ernie and leave it at that. The man, the music, the legend, the icon. Gonna take a quick break.
Yeah.
And come right back with much more inside of the Africa Forum. I know Herbie Miller is still on the line. Herbie, you're hearing it, right? This is quite something, isn't it?
Sure.
Yes.
Sure.
All right, let's take a quick break and come back. All right, we're back with you inside of the Africa Forum. It is Running Africa, and I'm just going to tell you straight up, because I'm a very honest person in this spot, that I'm just having straight goose pimples all morning, and it's just not stopping. Me hair standing up on my head on all kinds of somethings, because we have in the studio with us the man, the music, the legend, the icon, the story and the history of Jamaica's music cannot be written, will not be written in any way without Ernie Ranglin. Any history or story of Jamaica's music that is written without Ernie Ranglin is unfinished.
Lord.
It is flawed. Herbie, you're saying it is flawed.
Without Ernie in that history, it would be simply flawed.
It would be simply flawed.
No, that's
Yes.
like rapping about West Indies cricket without Gary Sobers.
There you go.
Don't get around these kinds of icons.
There you go. And we heard him mention just now Les Paul. Les Paul is critical to this discussion in a way, because as we heard, that relationship that Ernie Ranglin developed with Les Paul, who gave him his first guitar, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. Herbie, as a musicologist, how do you contextualize this?
Les Paul and Mary Ford were seminal to the development of American popular music. Les Paul was not just a guitarist, but also a sound engineer who is credited with introducing stereophonic sound.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as Ernest is concerned, I recall Les Paul, up to his 90s, he died close to 100, if not 100, would perform every Monday night at various clubs. And he'd be there for years and years. And each time Ernie Ranglin was in town, of course, he would go by and so. And Les Paul would simply get up out of the guitar chair, hand Ernie the guitar, and let him loose. That was the level of respect that Ernest had.
Yes.
When I escaped to New York, guitarists would turn out.
Yes.
I recall a night at a jazz club when Ernest's guitar was malfunctioning. And George Benson was in the audience. He left the club, drove to Jersey, back to Manhattan with a guitar for Ernest to perform. That's the level of respect that Ernest Ranglin had and continues to have among jazz people.
Of course, and we want to get to that side of Ernie, because Uncle Ernie, when we talk about jazz, but I first want to talk about your meeting Chris Blackwell and the performances that happened in Montego Bay at the Half Moon. Because what I find, Ernie, Uncle Ernie, is that you represent a continuity through, or you're not hearing me too well, or let me turn this up.
Look a bit more with it.
All right, let me speak directly into the microphone and we fix your headphone properly. All right, wait. All right, so you were there at the beginning of the Jamaican sound, but before that happened, there was a process. And I want to talk about that first meeting with the young man who was, what was he? He was a lifeguard or something at the Half Moon Hotel? That's Chris Blackwell. What was his work at the Half Moon Hotel? When he saw you there?
What was Chris Blackwell work at Half Moon?
Oh, Chris.
Yes, Chris Blackwell.
Yeah, well, this time I was at Baba Mota in Montego Bay, and I left from Baba Mota's group, and then I went to Half Moon at what these people name. Anyway, sometimes I'm getting too young,
yes,
so
and I'm trying to remember.
The names give trouble.
Yes, I'm going to get the name for you now.
Yes, I just remember.
Yeah.
Delisa. Those are the people.
Okay, Delisa, yes.
And Chris Blackwell, his family, he's their family also. And he came there and he decided to do an album with, there was a gentleman from one of those islands. That's
because was it the Bahamas or Bermuda? We're talking about Haywood, Lance Haywood.
Lance Haywood.
Lance Haywood.
Yes, Lance Haywood.
Yes.
Yes, and they decided, I think they gave me 1 or 2 tunes on the album. That was my first start.
Yes.
And then from there, I got to do my own albums with Chris. And
that first album that you did, and that was also, I think, Chris Blackwell's first release on Island Records.
Right.
That album with you and Lance Haywood and his orchestra. But what I find interesting about that is that, this is at least obviously Lance Haywood was a name. Ernest Ranglin was a newer person, was coming in, younger youth was coming in. But your sound was so sharp and crisp and to the soul on that album. I listened to the whole. I want to play the album this morning and the computer won't allow me. That album, everybody should get a copy of that album. That first Lance Haywood with Ernest Ranglin album that was put out in the 1950s. I think it was 1959.
Right.
Yes. It's beautiful. It reminds me, what it does for me, right, is that it takes me back to like childhood cooking, like Sunday cooking when you're 3 years old. I remember the time, when I was very young, just listening. So that was the first one put out by Chris Blackwell. But after that, then Chris, you began. You put out another album with Chris Blackwell.
Oh yes.
Talk to us about that. Was that the one that was called Guitar in Earnest? Was that?
Yeah, I think it was. Yes. Yes, I think that's it. Because I did about the first at Half Moon.
Yes.
I think I did 2 albums with him at Half Moon.
Right.
And that was one of them.
Yes.
That was my first featured album.
Yes, it's brilliant.
Yeah.
It's brilliant, Uncle Ernie. It's also there for me to play, but I just have to say, Dale and to Herbie, that the ancestors will not allow me to play those because they want time for us to talk to Ernie.
Yeah.
And I think people will find them. We'll talk about them and ask our listeners to go find them, please. Post them, buy them on Spotify, etc., and then and so on. But find the albums, because especially Guitar in Earnest is another one. And while my guitar sweetly weeps kind of situation, it's really brilliant. All right, so I want to come up now because I see, Uncle Ernie, I see you coming through time, right, with the music and carrying the music and redefining the music. But there came a time when there was a Sunday meeting that changed the music. And this is why I say you cannot write or talk about Jamaican music without talking about Ernie Ranglin. And this is why when you said you might not have named it, but you created the music, you are on point. Do you know what I'm talking about? Do you remember what I'm talking about? Let us talk about that creation of the music and that Sunday meeting with Cox and Dad.
The Sunday meeting with Cox and Dad.
Coxon?
Yes, that changed where you were asked to change the sound because Cox and Dad at some point, yes, go ahead, Dale.
You were asked to change the sound.
To develop a Jamaican sound.
To develop a Jamaican sound, you and Cox and Dad.
Yes. With Coxon, he was what would I say? He had a very good ear for music, and I think he used to choose the best of tunes in those times, and so whatever I would have to play, I would have to play something that could really make him, get him excited, and let's put it that way.
Yes.
And
I know what you're talking about.
have done a lot for that studio.
Yes.
Because that's where he started, and I think I was one of the first person to really bring that studio up to certain standard.
Yes, and I don't know how much you recall, Uncle Ernie, and if you don't, then we'll talk about it. The Sunday meeting when Cox and Dad came to you, and who else was there? I remember their names. Just say, listen, the Americanized sound, and you have told that story many times, so I'm just jogging your memory. He said he wanted a more Jamaican sound, and he called you in as the arranger, working with Studio One, along with others, and I think the Scatterlights came out of that also. And you said, give me a new sound, another sound, and it was a meeting that happened on Sunday. Cox and Dad has talked about it. It's written into the history, and you were the first one who told us about it. But so let me remind you of it. So, and that's where you. Well, I'm not a musicologist, so maybe Herbie can help us, or maybe Dale can help us to what happened with the sound then to develop the music that we now call ska. Yeah. How did we come to develop that music that we now call ska? I don't know if you have that story. You know that history, Herbie?
How did we develop ska? Ska.
That Sunday meeting.
Yes,
Sunday meeting is what I want to talk about. Yes, go ahead. Yes, go ahead.
I'm getting a little.
Yes.
To get that sound, Coxon is a man. Dad is his name.
Yes.
And he was a man who you would have to admire for his good hearing of and to his choice of music that he would really love, and he could hear what he wants,
Yes.
But the only thing he cannot play, so you had to have somebody who could communicate with him.
Yes.
And luckily, I don't know how good I was, but anyway, I was there with him.
Yes, you were very good. I think, Herbie, that we need to bring the Sunday meeting into the public space. Dale, do you know about the Sunday meeting?
No, we don't know about the Sunday meeting.
Yeah, I think it's very significant for Jamaica's history.
Yeah, I think
pull the microphone to you closer.
When I watched the interview with
Yes.
Mr. Ranglin, I think the change from the rhythm and blues, where they put the beats and stuff like that.
Yes.
So Mr. Ranglin, what she want to know, how did you change the rhythm and blues to ska?
Yes.
From
From rhythm and blues to ska.
This is the thing that we got the idea, and this is where, as I said before, Coxon had a very good ear, and he loved the music a lot, and he could really try to get what he wants, but he cannot play it. So he needed somebody who could communicate with him.
Yes.
And this is where we got this thing together.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where the ska came in.
Yes.
And so we were the first people who did the ska.
Right.
And we at Studio One, we really were the first people in doing a few things.
Yes, and I want to come back and talk about the days at Studio One and some of the creatives, and because as you said, a lot of firsts came out of Studio One, and you were an integral part of all of them, being an arranger and a guitarist. Let me take a quick break and come back.
Right.
All right, we're back with you inside of the Africa Forum. It is Running Africa, and so Dean Fraser, if you see your phone ringing, is us, but we're not quite ready. We just want to make sure you're on standby. We're getting a voicemail from you, but you're scheduled to be on at 8, so I can imagine that you're probably not answering right now, but Dean Fraser, we'll call you. All right, Uncle Ernie, Daddy Ernie, the Honorable Ernest Ernie Ranglin, the man, the music, the legend, the icon. Foundation Rhythms of Jamaica's musical heritage come from Ernie Ranglin. We talk about his timeless relevance. We talk about his enduring legacy. We talk about how his music is the soundtrack of our lives. We're talking about a career spanning some 76 years and probably more. One of the most influential guitarists in the history of popular music, in the same pantheon with Jimi Hendrix, hands down. No apologies. It is what it is. All right, so we're back with Ernie Ranglin. Dale Halsam is in the studio, just in case you're wondering which Dale we're talking about, because we never properly introduced, Dale. We're so excited.
Haslam.
Dale Haslam is in the studio. Dale, tell us about your, how you met, because you're a young man.
Yeah.
Yes, you're a musician, you're a guitarist. Tell us about how you met Ernie Ranglin.
I started out, I come from country, Brownstown.
Yes.
But when I came out on the North Coast, in the hotels, there was a friend of mine, heard that Mr. Ranglin needs a bass player. Mm-hmm. And he brought me to Mr. Ranglin. That time I couldn't really play much.
Yes.
But from Mr. Ranglin, he's like a father from then. And he's the first one who brought me on tour.
What year was that when you met him?
About 97 or 96, around that time.
That was the year before you went in search of the rhythm.
Yeah.
So you were in search of the rhythm with him in Senegal?
No, I didn't go, but I know the journey.
Yeah, we're going to talk about it later.
But my first trip with him was to Cayman, then Barbados, and then England. A lot of places we got to travel together.
Wow.
And he might not have sit down and show me stuff on the guitar, but just the way he talked to me, I know how to improvise. He teach me the method of improvisation. It's a big skill a big honor to have that. So it's like a father to me from that time until now. I'm still learning.
The Bible says you can be jealous after good things.
Yes.
I'm a grudge you're bad.
I'm fortunate, I think I'm one of the only person they probably letting them space, and them husband and wife.
Yes.
I'm happy for that, because they taught me a lot of things about how to develop yourself as a young man. Them very, very nice people. Right. I learned a lot of things from them. How to look to change my view about life to be successful.
Right. So it's a holistic. And you say, my uncle is your father.
Definitely.
Easy.
I Thank you, for real. A big thing though, you know.
A big thing.
Yeah,
All right, so and tell us about Dale, the guitarist and musician, because there's a lot about you. You're a teacher also.
Yes, at Staytown Academy.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I started from country, Brownstown, barefoot, so yeah, barefoot go school.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Them days.
I find some, my mother never have it, so I went to learn a trade, mechanic.
Yes.
And then the music, I fall in love with music, and from my fall in love, I started in church. Then I have an uncle who brought me in his band. Then from there, I came to the North Coast, started playing in the hotels, and then from there, I met up with Ernie, then I met up with Desi Jones.
Yes.
And I started working with Desi Jones over the years, Jimmy Cliff, a lot of artists. And finally, I'm the band leader for Richie Spice. And I still work with Ernie. So with that, I said I wanted something more. So I went back to school, and then I started, and I went to Edna Man, and I graduated as valedictorian.
Wow.
And then I left in 2020 and started teaching at Staytown. And this year, last year we had the 4 top C6 students in music in the island and the top in the Caribbean.
Yeah. And it's a Staytown Academy. This is a Staytown Academy that the Jamaica cannot understand because because you're in Staytown and you're excellent and it's not all of a sudden.
No.
It takes time, because here we have Dale, who is one of the is a protege of Dr. the Honorable Ernest Ranglin, who is teaching at Staytown Academy, who took how many students top students?
Yeah, the first year when I taught them, I got second and fourth in Jamaica, and this year I have the 4 top in Jamaica. Last year, and then the top in the Caribbean. But to do that, it's lessons from Ernie. I use the same methods, because the students they don't see the future.
Yes.
So we'll be there Grand Market night, online, Sunday night, after school there till 8 o'clock. Sometimes I say students. Sometimes I remember the girl, she's at Edna. I lock her in the room all day, grill it, and say you have to practice. She cry.
Oh.
But the success that they got, what they receive, they can see the journey, what I was talking to them about. So it's like Ernie used to talk to me about the road is gonna be rough, but the success I'm having now is through the kind of encouragement I get from Ernie them.
And I want to put a note to Benny right here, so that Staytown Academy is a school that has been doing very well, and Staytown Academy has been devalued and demonized in the media because the people who are covering that story don't understand what's happening when you have people like a Dale in that classroom, right, getting those top Caribbean grades. You don't understand that, but if it was another Kingston school, you'd have been good with it, and the coverage would have been different. So done with it already. We're talking about the influence of Dr. the Honorable Ernest Ranglin through his protege at Staytown Academy, getting these top grades. Understand the context, and this is why journalism in Jamaica needs to be called out on many levels, even when we're writing the history and the story of Jamaica's music. Understand the Sunday meeting. Every single journalist must know about this Sunday meeting in 1959. One Sunday morning in 1959, when bass player Chloe J. Johnson and Ernie Ranglin were asked by Coxsone Dodd in a surprisingly formal manner to meet him at the liquor store that he ran in Love Lane. And Coxsone Dodd told the two masters, I need something to get away from this blues, from the rhythm and blues, as you said. And he told them that the manner in which Jamaican music was imitating contemporary American black music was what he wanted to change a bit. And so, in the store's backyard, they sat down and worked out the recipe for a new sound. They sought a formula for a music that was distinctly Jamaican, whilst retaining its roots in the R&B and popular jazz that beamed down into Jamaica from radio stations in the Southern American states. Ska was a music that resulted from that Sunday morning session. It was a shuffle boogie rhythm of a type popularized by artists like Louis Jordan and Erskine Hawkins. And I could continue reading. The unexpected emphasis on the offbeat only emphasized its addictive flavor. And they talk about Ernest Ranglin said of the day, and they're quoting now, And he told us this much earlier too. We just wanted it to sound like the theme music from one of those westerns that were on TV in the late 50s. That Sunday meeting is critical for all of us to remember and to know. Look at me there, ball. You know, honestly, Dale, tears running out of my eye. And it is because I think we are not. We are responsible for history, and we're responsible for how history is written. And as media and journalists, I think we really do have a responsibility to ensure that we don't just parrot, but that we investigate and tell the truth of Jamaica's music. I feel that we haven't been telling the truth of Jamaica's music because in a lot of ways, and I'm very sad to say, we have left out Dr. The Honorable Ernest Ranglin. And, I'm talking about as my profession, the media. Let me, because me a ball, let me take a quick break. You're inside of the Africa Forum. It is Running Africa. And I'm honored, more than you can ever believe, to have in the studio with me Ernie Ranglin, Dr. The Honorable Ernest Ranglin. This morning, the man, the music, the legend, the icon. Uncle Ernie, let us talk about those days at Studio One, because you said a lot of firsts were created at Studio One, and you were there for them. Tell us about them.
Tell us about Studio One, all the things that created at Studio One.
Oh, Studio One.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the first thing to begin with, I think we were the first person to start a certain type of music. And let's say a style of music. And the first thing that we did, we listened to the rhythm and blues, and we decided that instead of the 1, 2, 1, 2, and we changed it to 1, 2, 3, 4 instead of 1. 1, 2, 1, 2. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, and this is where we started the ska.
Yes.
And we had a heavy emphasis on the second and the fourth beat. That's where that style came in, and that was ours. And how we did it, Coxon had a very, I call him Coxon, but Dad, Cecil Dad.
Yes.
And he had a very good ear, and that was what he would hear certain music, but he would know exactly how to explain it into a certain way, and I guess this is where I came in,
and you also worked with a young Bob Marley.
Oh yes, Bob was the first. Well, this is how Coxon's studio came in, because we used to go to other places like Federal before it was being built properly, and we used to go to the little one-room studio in those days. But after that, and Coxon built Dad built his studio now, and then when he was finished, well, this studio was a nightclub that we called the End.
Yes.
I used to play there too, and so eventually he bought the studio, bought that area.
And what our listeners need to understand on this is that you were the house arranger at Studio One, so that put you in a position where you were working with all these artists who came in, arranging the music and talking them through the music and so on.
Yeah.
And hence Bob Marley and even Simmer Down was something that you worked on. Some of the other artists that you worked with at Studio One.
Oh, a whole lot. You know.
Everybody.
I can't remember, but
Yes.
it's so much. But I was giving a little idea about Bob Marley.
Yes.
He started at, this was when Coxsone Studio was going to be officially now open.
Yes.
And you had the musical, the engineer was Headley Jones, who is a fine bass player and guitar player, and most technician in electronics and so forth. And he was at the beginning there the engineer. And so when the studio was just going to open officially, Bob Marley was the guy who opened that studio.
Wow.
And I was always in charge of that studio.
Yeah.
You know,
was it Bob Marley and the Wailers at that time?
Yes.
And I know you've said that at the time you recognized something in Bob Marley. You said he was more or less a perfectionist.
Yeah. It was when they came to do the recording. It was like a history because they didn't come with any special thing. You know, they are young fellas, and you know. So I started off a little introduction of, and eventually they came to this tune that made a big hit, which was "It Hurts to Be Alone."
Oh, yes.
That was when that tune was formulated. Well, I noticed that. And on the album, they didn't mention anything about me. But anyway, I'm glad that I was part of it.
Yes, and this is why I cried a while ago, you know, because I know a lot, you know. I've been studying Daddy Uncle Ernie for a very long time, and I know that this is not just the one place where they don't mention you, but we want to reclaim our history, and in the same way that you went in search of the lost rhythm in Senegal, in Dakar. It's the same way that we must go in search of your rhythms because and to ensure that you're mentioned. And that takes me to something else, that at one point you were credited in some places as El Pancho. Is that during the days of because of those contractual arrangements with Federal, and so that he could not be credited with work done for other clients, so the pseudonym was El Pancho in some
Pancho. El Pancho.
What?
You were El Pancho.
Pancho?
No,
El Pancho.
Yeah.
You know, you have me out to that one. I don't really remember that.
We're gonna leave it right there because it's all I'm credited sometimes. You know, it's an interesting situation that conversation we're having here in the studio with Dr. the Honorable Ernest Ernie Ranglin, the man, the music, the legend, the icon. I didn't realize that you bought this Dale, because Guitar in Earnest is actually here on CD.
Yes.
Let me just go to something from this. I wonder if Herbie is still there. I know Herbie have to go now. Herbie, you still there?
Yes, I'm.
What do you think about Guitar in Earnest? Oh, goodness, what a beautiful sound.
You know, I went and pulled out my old battered copy and I was reading the liner.
Yes.
If you have the record, I don't know if the CD has the liner notes.
No, because no, don't have it. Even Uncle Ernie get up out of the studio, come check it, you know, to say, let me see that CD.
Let me read what it says.
Yes.
The Sunday Telegraph called Ernest, quote, a guitar explorer who possesses a tremendous technique and executes the most complicated melodic ideas at astonishing speed. End of quote.
Wow.
Jazzy called him, quote, a highly competent musician who can play anything that is demanded of him. End
Wow.
of quote.
Wow.
London Crescendo said, quote, British jazz can only gain by his presence. And British magazine BMG, Banjo, Mandolin and Guitar magazine, featured him in an article by Chris Spelling, who glowed, quote, he is capable of execution of ridiculously fast single string phrases with perfect syncopation between his hands, despite the fact that his wrist is held flat, which is an unorthodox way to do it, and complicated. I implore every reader of this column within hitchhiking distance of London to make the pilgrimage.
We're going to leave it there for you, Herbie. Thank you so much for that.
You here too, and go on listening in the car.
Yes, please, and have a good one today at the Jamaica Music Museum. This is a good day for everybody to head to the Jamaica Music Museum after the program done. You know, just to celebrate the music. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Herbie Miller. Herbie Miller there, director, curator of the Jamaica Music Museum. And we want to go to Dean Fraser. Dean Fraser is traveling. Yes. Can we say where he is?
He told me he was in Trinidad.
Okay. So he's in Trinidad, and we're trying to make that connection with him on the phone lines because, of course, here is another point of view, another protege also. All of us are young people and proteges when we come in the presence of Dr. the Honorable Ernest Ranglin. Dean Fraser, someone who is a saxophonist, and you heard Ernie talked about reading the notes for just to play the saxophone, violin, etc. In the early days, teaching himself, reading those books. And here we have a saxophonist who has done a compilation and a collaborative album also with Ernie Ranglin. Later on, we're going to go to the phone line to speak with Maurice Gordon, and also no stranger to this space, but it's like a reunion because it's a long time that we haven't spoken to any of these brothers. And Dale, of course, remains in the studio with us. While we wait, then, to make that connection with Dean Fraser, Uncle Ernie, your musical journey, it includes all genres. We've got jazz, mento, calypso, ska, rocksteady, reggae, doo-wop, R&B, boogie-woogie. But even listen to this, you seem to have a special place in your heart for jazz.
Well, it seems you have a special place in your heart for jazz. You love jazz music.
If what?
You love jazz.
Do you have a special place in your heart for jazz?
Yeah. Well, jazz music. it seems to be a real natural thing of all that, you know.
Yes.
But when you put it together, music is just music anyway. But I think jazz music is much more. It's like classic. You know, because you have to be well learned that you can express certain things about it, because generally it's like you're telling a story.
Yes.
You know, and you can't tell a story unless you know what what you're talking about.
True, and you're a good storyteller using the music.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that we can see that special, we can hear it, that special place for jazz in your heart. We're standing by for Dean Fraser. He's on, yes. All right. So we're going to go to the phone lines now to speak with. Do we have the collaborative CD with Dean?
I have a computer, right?
Computer, right. So our listeners understand something that's happening this morning. which is that for no particular reason, it seems, and this is the first time it has happened to me, that the computers are not up and running in the studio. And so what that has left us with is the old way of doing things, which is playing CDs from a CD player. And thank you so much for carrying in these CDs, Dale, because as you can see, I walked with only one, which I play every Sunday morning, and this one is called The Ultimate Ranglin Roots, Ernest Ranglin.
Ultimate Ranglin.
When I heard the promo from Tad's record all of last year, I think a lot of last year, on this program, and there were many ads running, the new album was Dean Fraser and Ernie Ranglin. Every Sunday morning I'll come on the microphone and beg a copy. And I said, Dean Fraser, I need a copy. Tads, I need a copy of that CD. I really love it. Dean Fraser is joining us on the phone lines live from Trinidad. Dean, thank you so much for making the time.
Good morning, Abu. Good morning, Ernie, Dale, everybody big up.
Dean, good morning. Dean Fraser.
Yeah.
Yes.
Dean?
Yes, Dean Fraser. He's on the line.
Yes. Wonder if he's going to come and play. Is he going to come and teach me something on the saxophone this morning?
Dean, I'm afraid you're going to have to answer that one, You're not getting out of it. And as you know, saxophonist extraordinaire, Dean Fraser, your collaborative album released last year, as we said before. Just listening to that, for me, one of the greatest tributes, I think, and a fitting tribute to the musical genius and the giant that is Ernie Ranglin, the magnitude of Ernie Ranglin. Dean, while you were doing that, did the idea of a tribute cross your mind during production of Two Colors? And how did you come by the title Two Colors?
So I don't really know. I just think that, you have this great man, and just the chance to collaborate with him, this just came to my mind,
Yes.
It wasn't anything that I went home and thought about. It just came to my mind.
Yeah.
And that was it. Two colors. Nothing else really, nothing hard, nothing,
Yeah, higher powers, literally. At an energy, frequency, vibration, we say all the time. Because really and truly, one of the best tributes, and as I said before, a fitting tribute. You didn't think it so, it just come to your mind. It means that it was your purpose to do. And it turned out to be a great tribute to Dr. the Honorable Ernie Ranglin, the man, the music, the legend, the icon. So thank you so much for taking us on that journey in that tribute, Dean. Let us talk about how Ernie Ranglin might have influenced you yourself as a saxophonist. And I know Ernie said earlier this morning that some of the early books he was reading in terms of teaching himself the notes, to read the notes of musical notes, was also books on playing the saxophone, which is interesting.
Yes, you do. But my influence, my what you would call my introduction to Ernie Ranglin actually came from a man named Sonny Bradshaw, whom I was a young saxophonist at age 15 playing in Sonny Bradshaw's band. And Sonny would tell me about Ernie Ranglin who strapped a guitar to his back and just keep it. Anytime you see him, he had a guitar on his back and he would practice. He would just walk and practice, and that's it. You will never see him unattached, So right away you can figure out greatness there, you understand me? This man is going to be a super musician. And I mean one of my teachers, Sonny Bradshaw, would talk to me in parables and mentioning Ernie behaving like that he would say to me, you have to practice. You understand me? You have to practice to become someone as good. You know, which I know I don't reach there so yet, but you know, it was just fantastic to hear about a young Ernest Ranglin just walking with his guitar every day and practicing, you know, until I met him some years later, you know, during a jazz session, when I remember saxophonist Guinea coming to Jamaica, and they had a jazz session at the Jankunu Lounge, Sheraton, and that was where I met all these great people, and you know, just was just grateful to be there.
Yes. Hold the line for me, please, Dean, if you can, for 1 minute. I come just a quick break. Dean Fraser is on the line, and we're talking about his collaboration, but also how he's been influenced by Ernie Ranglin. And so that Ernie, Dean, at early in the day, 15 years old. When you said 15, I kind of perked up there because I thought, wow, I knew, because we've had conversations before, that you started early. I just didn't remember that it was so early and playing in a band. And it's similar to Ernie Ranglin. It seems to me that those who are the best of us in terms of the creative started really, really early. This is important, isn't it?
It is very important, especially when you get a chance to be exposed to all these great people around you. And I would think it's a great thing, you know. And these days I call it my duty to make sure that the youngsters who come around is exposed to everything. You understand me? Because, I mean, I was able to meet people like Ernie Ranglin at an early age, and this really influenced my career right now as a musician, and so this is the way to go.
And you talk about the discipline, and Dale also talked about that discipline from Ernie Ranglin. This discipline that you talk about. It has to be it has to be done. It has to be an action thing, isn't it? Explain that to us, because, and the reason why I'm asking this is because we're looking at where the music has how the music has evolved, and where it has evolved to, and what it is that we might have been missing from Ernie Ranglin to bring us to the point where we are with not that kind of a discipline.
This discipline is very, this is something very serious. You have to practice, you have to listen, you have to retain, then you have to execute. And when you put all of these together, you become a total musician. It is very important for you to, get all of these different areas that you help to make you the kind of musician you are. And the discipline comes in all these stages. You understand me? So we really have to seriously sit down, and I tell all my young musicians that, look, you have to find time to play your instrument, practice your instrument, learn from other people, retain things that you learn, and then you are able to just, play, right? And this is like a senior part of your whole career. This will make you.
Yes. And when you talk about longevity, Dale, you also, the collaborative album that we're talking about with Two Colors, with Dean Fraser, so you're also on this album. You've also worked on this album. Talk to us about that, because we asked Dean about, and we understand the energy and the frequency of the vibration. This is some high business. Your own experience on that album, and did you also feel that? Did you feel that tribute likeness?
Yeah, I have to say I have to give thanks to Dean Fraser to consider me to play, and to play most of the tracks. I think 6, 7, or 8 of the tracks. I was surprised that he chose me, and I was, I'm gonna put that gun in the record book for me, like a highlight to play it for. Dean is one of the Jamaica best arrangers and top saxophonist, and Mr. Ranglin, the top guitarist. So for me to be on that is like a pioneer time in my life. I'm really, really happy. To be instrumental in the album.
Yes. So you're not gonna answer the trade part of it. You're just glad that you were called.
Yeah, I'm glad to go. I'm glad me defend the thing here with them too, because I know my name Ghana history like.
I understand, Dean, I totally got that, He's not even going to analyze it right now, He's just happy that, listen, I got to work with Dean Fraser. Tribute. Well, I'm calling it a tribute to Ernest Ranglin, because when you listen to the album, that's what you get.
Yes.
Yes, Dean.
Well, I can add to that.
Yes.
Really, Abu. I mean, he'll just make it sound like, yes, him play on a project with me and it was nice and things. Yes. He was actually the backbone of the whole project.
Wow.
You understand what I'm saying? I mean, him not going to take credit for it, but me I go give him the credit.
Yes.
He was actually the backbone of the whole situation. I mean, I would call Gail, and I would say, Gail, we need to record some tracks today. I would journey to Orcharius, right? And we would go into to Dale's little apartment, right? And we would record Ernie for a lot of hours, And then, Dale would, accommodate us, make sure that Ernie's there, make sure that Mama Ernie send him out and everything.
Yeah.
And it was just, this thing was really, it was really nice. This was something that you wanted to do, When it comes time that I had to drive to Orcharius, I just wanted to do so, and of course Dale was really inspirational and was, gave his all, and make it sound like a one-way thing neither.
Yes.
Yes. I'm from Kingston and we sit down at the studio all day and lay these tracks, and I tell you, of course, he's a super bass player also, Dr. Dale, but we have to make mention that, this brethren was an intricate part of the whole tribute to Ernest Ranglin, the Two Colors, and, I must commend him right now too and thank him, for making this, come true.
And thank you both for that. And also, I'm going to come back to Uncle Ernie. Let me just take a quick break because, and let me just say to everyone who's listening, this album, Two Colors, get a copy, buy it on Spotify or whatever streaming service that's selling it, and listen, and then let us talk. Let's take a quick break. On the phone line, Dean Fraser. In the studio, Dr. the Honorable Ernest Ranglin, and we're talking about the collaborative work now in this segment of the program with Dean Fraser on the phone lines. As I said before, the album is truly amazing. It benefits the occasion because we're talking about an album that features Ernest Ranglin. It features yourself, Dean Fraser. It features Dale in studio. Uncle Ernie, how did you enjoy working on this, your most recent project with these two youngsters?
How did you enjoy working on the album with Dean?
Yeah, well, Dean, I really, that is one of our musicians that I really appreciate it, as far as, what should I say, is being such a great young fellow, because I would have to call him a young fellow because I'm pretty younger than him.
Yes, he's a youngster,
But he's one of our finest saxophonists in this time, and I really I watched him coming up, and I appreciate his way of his how he has excelled, you know, and I really appreciate what he has done, how he has been doing, and I wish him all the very best.
Yes.
I know because I'm much younger than him, so I don't know how long we'll be around. But I appreciate being with him,
Yes.
and I admire him a lot as a fine musician and a great guy who's been very successful, you know, and I hope I'm wishing him a very long life and much more success.
Yes.
You know.
Yes. Dean, I know that we've had Ernie being honored right here in Jamaica and elsewhere. But I found myself tearing up a while ago because I was talking about Ernie Ranglin is very humble. We all know that. He's one of the humblest giants and legends that we've ever met. And but I know also that recognition on the island, and Uncle Ernie is sitting right here, and I'm saying it, is not what it should be, and there could be so much. And your album began to speak to that, you know, the collaborative effort in a serious way. But what are your thoughts on this in terms of how, as a nation, someone like Ernie Ranglin, it's not as I'm kind of counting my words on it, but he's not as recognized or valued as he should be.
Well, you see, the situation right now is that we, the musicians, have to do it. You know, because I don't think anyone else is gonna, take up this mantle to really show the world that this is a super musician, and you know, his name should be in lights, and you know.
Yes.
So it is simple right now, really. We the peers have to deal with it.
Yes.
You understand me? And this is one of the reasons why the thought from Tad, Father Tad, to me saying, boy, you think we could have do something with Ernie? And I think I broke all barriers to make sure this happened.
Yes.
You understand me? So
beautiful work, by the way.
We just have to take our time, you know, in the industry, in the music industry, to really give thanks for one another. And we want to make sure right now that we give thanks for Ernest Ranglin, and make sure them live forever. You understand? Because it's our duty.
Yes.
Again.
Yeah.
You know, so me not depend on nobody right now to say, yeah, this is a great man, or this was a great man, you know. We want to recognize him right here in our Jamaican music industry, and I am asking all of the musicians right, to please, you know, make sure that you recognize this great man, and make sure that in each and every one of you young musicians' head, the name must never be forgotten.
Well said, Dean. Thank you so much for that, for taking some time out and joining this conversation. We're very honored to have you in the space and to speak power into the space that is also paying tribute to Ernie Ranglin. As I said earlier, we see him in the same way that we view Jimi Hendrix, the greatest guitarist of all time.
Most
You know, and so I think, you know, the education industry will catch on, the education ministry will catch on. I hope from this program the education ministry catches on, because we need that input, that inroad into all the schools. The culture ministry will catch on, because we also need that. And we don't want our artists only to be seen within a tourism context, but somebody as great as Ernie. We must begin to honor the greats among us in the same way that we see others do, because Jimi Hendrix, I think, you know, Ernie Ranglin, same pantheon.
Right.
Thank you so much, Dean. Thank you so much.
The informative information presented in this video is motivational and is positively aimed at inspiring, educating and entertaining the viewers with the cutting edge of critical reasoning. If you enjoy the contents on the Black Radar YouTube channel, please consider subscribing to show your support.